Just wanted to say a few words ahead of this video because these videos come off the back of a huge lot of Eaglemoss Star Trek ships that I picked up recently. And so I've put up all the duplicates on eBay for you to have a look at, and I'll include links around and about the place. So if you've got any sort of interest in getting hold of a few of these, to have a look at them for yourself, you can do so for a while at least, because it looks like they're not going to go flying off the shelves. I've tried to price them quite reasonably, so do please go and have a look. And without further ado, I will get on with the main video. Cheers. So the Saber class is one of those ships that Starfleet produced with a view to avoiding another Wolf 359 massacre. And with that in mind, we see it primarily in Star Trek First Contact. It does appear in other scenarios. It does appear in Deep Space Nine as part of the Dominion support fleet. And we also see it very briefly in Voyager. But this is quite an interesting one because I was reading through this magazine again just to familiarise myself with the class, and it's fast. It's warp 9.7 capable, so it can get where it needs to go pretty rapidly. But it has no secondary hull. It's got warp nacelles that are sort of enclosed in armour, effectively, and everything is very sort of compact. It doesn't have a massive crew complement. Classed as a light cruiser, according to Eaglemoss, but they also note that it's got a lot of design similarities with the Defiant, because they were probably coming off the production line at about the same time. And in fact, it was actually being produced at about the same time as Voyager was being constructed as well, in flashback anyway. So it's a very, very unusual Federation, Starfleet ship, in the sense that, as you can see just from its profile, it's really, really sort of narrow. I can't imagine it would do a lot of science. It's got shuttle bays in the front, which is really unusual. But it's not unlike the Defiant in the sense that primarily this ship is here to blow stuff up. So in that sense, it is inherently unusual. But it just also is a lot more tightly designed. It's got this wonderful sort of triangular enclosure for its navigational deflector as well, which I quite like. So I recall seeing them in First Contact buzzing around the Borg cube, but I hadn't really sort of read up on them to this point. This, for example, is the USS Jaeger, but apparently there was going to be another ship class called the Jaeger class, which would have been involved as well, but they scrapped that, but they gave this Saber its name. This is NCC 61947, and the saucer section is odd because it's not sort of circular. It doesn't complete a complete shape. It's kind of cut off because they've tacked the engineering section onto the back of it. Apparently, size-wise, it's kind of the same size as the Galaxy class's primary hull, just to give you an idea of its overall size. But I was laughing because the last one I looked at was a Borg Tactical Cube. The model for this is about the same size as the model for the Borg Tactical Cube, which is about more than that. This is only 233 metres, and a tactical cube is 3 kilometres, but on one side, so it's just, that's a bit ridiculous, that they're the same size in terms of the model. But anyway, it's just the way that Eaglemoss do their sizes. So you can see there's one there in the Star Trek sort of First Contact Battle of Earth. And just generally just got a lot of really sort of nice detailing on it. I mean, I'm not quite sure what this detailing is actually in aid of. I can recognise the phaser strip and everything else, but some of the other detailing, I'm not quite sure what they were going for as such in terms of its functionality. But it's got a lot of skateboard hatches and all that sort of good stuff on it. So just one of these sort of ships where presumably they could churn them out relatively rapidly. And then they would act as sort of fleet support vessels for the larger ships that were really, really dealing the damage out. But I do just like its overall sort of just rather different layout and sort of structure, because it's obviously been designed with a particular purpose in mind, which makes perfect sense because Starfleet had to react to all 359. And it's the sort of thing that Shelby was saying, when that she was going to be sort of tasked with helping to rebuild the fleet. So this is the design that they didn't use apparently, which as you can see is quite similar. Got a funny sort of sticky out bridge section there, presumably, although that could be a bridge as well. I think wanted to maintain a two-hull design for Saber class. Yeah, so the nacelles they are on really, really, really short pylons, but they do kind of have pylons, and there is this sort of secondary hull idea, but really it's so merged together. It's more like the Defiant in the sense that it is kind of one ship. It's one hull basically, rather than looking like it's got two distinct parts. And rather strangely, they then go on to assembling the Borg Queen in a sort of like H.R. Geiger-esque kind of fashion. Quite interesting to see sort of what they were considering doing. I haven't really read all this in any great detail, but obviously we know what it ended up looking like. So that's it, and sort of one very sort of brief on-screen glimpses. I mean, I don't think even in sort of things like Lower Decks we've seen many other examples of the Saber actually sort of being involved in a real story. I don't know if fan fiction or anything like that has sort of picked up on them as a class particularly, but I mean, as I say, had I not been mulling doing a sort of a First Contact sort of sub collection almost, I probably wouldn't have thought about getting it. So the fact that I just happened to get it in this job lot, made that sort of decision a lot easier. So let's have a little look at it here. Looks like this box has been elsewhere for a while. Let's pop the top off it if we can. This one's freed itself by itself. There we go. Incredibly light, which suggests to me immediately there isn't a whole lot of metal involved in this one at all. Definitely pretty light on the metal front, but still definitely shed loads of detail on there. I'm looking for the little shuttle bays. Unfortunately, they haven't managed to get the numbering on the shuttle bays, which I thought they might have tried to do, because the magazine called out the fact that the shuttle bays are on the front, and that's deeply unusual. Shuttle bays are almost always rear facing, because logically, if the ship suddenly puts on a spurt of speed, it could catch up with the auxiliary craft that are trying to launch out the front of it, which would be awkward. So you'd have to be fairly well tidied navigationally to avoid that happening as an issue. This is the Jaeger. That's obviously the example that they've taken there. But impressive they've been able to write it that small. You could they can reproduce it, but also still read it. So you've got type 10 phasers here apparently on the sort of main phaser strips. Lots of escape pod hatches there, and possibly almost actually far too many considering the number of crew it's not supposed to have. It's supposed to be quite lightly crewed, but you can see here that on the nacelles they're very heavily covered as compared with what you'd normally expect to see on a sort of Federation starship. You just can't see the blue grille at all. It's all enclosed. So this just gives you an idea that this ship was primarily built for combat purposes. And there's a rather nice unusual sort of triangular navigational deflector enclosure down the bottom there with the sort of brown plating around it. So certainly a lot of detail for a small model. There's no two ways about it, and it is quite small, this one, because it doesn't have the normal sort of separation between the primary and secondary hulls. So as you can see there, the aft section really isn't that bulky. It's just merged into the primary hull, but I guess that means it's less vulnerable than average, which is kind of the point of this. It's intended to be able to hang in the fight longer. So yeah, I like it. Let me just get it on the stand. I neglected to look at where it's supposed to live. in terms of the stand and the base. Well, let's see if I can figure it out. Gives you a good clue as to whether or not someone's set these up before. Because if the base is still wrapped in cellophane, then the odds are that it hasn't been played with, so to speak, before. Yeah, just slots in there, I think, like that. So that's it. That's the Saber class. I mean, First Contact must have upped the ship class count, perhaps more than any other Star Trek film, because we did see a lot of new Federation designs that were specifically anti-Borg over the course of the film. So we definitely got a few things introduced there that perhaps we hadn't seen before, along with, of course, the tried and trusted Defiant. So that's it for this one. So do like and subscribe as ever, and I will move on to another. Cheers for now.